All right, we are back.
Good morning from the Atlantic Ocean.
Good morning. I think we are in the Atlantic Ocean still, although I think we start to loop around into the Caribbean Sea.
I was talking to a friend yesterday. We have debated in the past whether the Caribbean Sea is part of the Atlantic Ocean. You would say that it is part of the Atlantic Ocean,
Yes.
But that we would not call it the ocean.
It's a separate body of water.
Right. And jury's out, according to her Google research. So, yeah.
So it's not a slam dunk.
It's not a slam dunk. The Google research says that the Caribbean Sea is part of the Atlantic Ocean.
Sure, it feeds into the yes, you're right.
So the semantics of it all is whether or not we can say that we're in the ocean.
Which in my world, which we're going to talk about today, we're all about semantics, and some say pedantic semantics and how we define things.
Maybe that's the issue with this particular debate is in my world. I guess no, my world is pretty exact too.
Oh yes, in your world they are very particular.
The theological world really matters when it comes to exactness. Okay. So yeah.
So today is a special episode. This is a crossover episode.
Woo woo.
Which means that normally, for new listeners, you are my wife. We're married.
I am, and we are.
So I am Aaron Wilkerson.
Yes.
You are Mary Wilkerson.
I mean, they know who you are.
Yes.
They're connecting through LinkedIn. I mean,
many of them may not know who you are.
A podcast extraordinaire.
So we've been doing a podcast for the past year. We started May of last year.
Yep.
You did not want to.
Correct. Only because everybody and their mom, sister's brother has a podcast. And I'm like, what is our differentiating reality?
Maybe.
Yeah. But then somebody did say we have a differentiated reality.
Yes. So it's been a year. This is episode 49. So we're almost at 50. However, for new listeners, we have many of our episodes are in the vault for various reasons that we won't get into. So
that's right.
Whatever you can find out there, the more recent ones, but we had to hide some of our episodes.
Okay, but my understanding, according to the vault, is that some of the dispensers of the podcasts still have them around. So like, even though they're in the vault, you can still get access to them if you tried hard enough.
So you can find them in the third-party market.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So moving on. So we had a podcast for the past year. I typically don't post it on LinkedIn.
I know. I say that you try to hide your life from LinkedIn.
Well, mainly because we talk about like faith, family, and things like that. We don't talk about like work topics and like business stuff.
The use case for Power BI is not discussed.
Yes, we don't talk about my world. Right. So which I don't post on LinkedIn because then it just takes up time and effort and space and things like that. It may not be relevant.
Correct. I feel like you should have stopped and given me my flowers for me saying the use case for Power BI is not discussed on.
Like, I don't think you know what that means.
I have no idea what that means.
You don't know what that means.
I said it. And I feel like I should get some flowers, but I guess not.
So today's episode is a special one because I will be posting this one on LinkedIn for the first time.
Yes. From the Atlantic Ocean.
From the Atlantic Ocean. So this week we are on vacation on a cruise, which our normal listeners know about because we've been posting about it we've been talking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Weeks. Months even.
So this week I am posting on LinkedIn, but it's kind of crossover of like some work related, but like just random thoughts and things like that. So
I saw you're doing a series. What is your series called this week?
Ocean Thoughts.
Ocean Thoughts. I do love when you get more personal in your thing, but I thought your Ocean Thoughts would be primarily personal, and turns out they're not. They're still nerd posts.
Yeah, well, you got to keep the people interested. So 100%. So I figured today we would kind of blend our audiences by talking about career-related things.
Great.
And how it crosses into family life, marriage, having children, raising children, and the like. So I introduced you here because I think you're a big part of that, which I think my LinkedIn audience doesn't normally hear from, except when you throw in like random like jabs and you make fun of me on LinkedIn sometimes.
I don't mean jabs, but I will say if there are any LinkedIn folks that are watching this, I did crack the heck up when we were flying on Delta on our way to Fort Lauderdale, and I opened your LinkedIn, which I do occasionally. I'm obviously not a LinkedIn user. I don't need it for my world. I don't want it for my world. And you had a picture of the effort I had put into packing for this trip, and there was no shout out of like,
there was.
Oh, look what my wife did.
100% there was in the comments.
and saw these.
But it wasn't like
that's amazing. Like you packed the family to go on this cruise.
I never said that.
Unbelievable.
It was not implied. All I did was post a picture.
Yeah.
And I said, like, hey, like, this is the large family life.
Yeah.
But I didn't go into the details of, hey, this is all the effort it takes to go into that. That was not what I was doing.
Right.
And you took it as, well, I need to call you out and give you a shout out.
Well, and I think you just, I mean, to tie a little bow on that, we have joint efforts. So I certainly do the logistics of packing, but you literally do everything else.
Correct.
Like I go in, I am a passenger princess from start to finish. Show up, get on the plane, land, get in a car, go to the hotel. I mean, I don't do any of that. So
correct.
Different strokes. Different
first question for you is, what is my job title and what do I do?
Erin is a director of data and strategy. And what you do is you use Power BI and other tools to analyze data in theory. But what you actually do at your level is you help to manage a data team for Carhartt. And I don't know the purpose of it. I think it helps increase sales to know the data.
Sure. That was a good C minus.
I actually feel like that was an A plus. I, for many years, had no idea what your title was. I'd be like, wait, what is it again? Like, he works in IT, or like, he's like a programmer, or like, and you're like, that's actually not what I do.
Correct.
I remember being in the old house and sitting down and being like, I'm 5 years old. I need you to tell me what the purpose of your job is.
Well, that's what's interesting is because you and my parents, like, essentially everyone around me has no clue. No. Like our friends, they have no clue.
No.
What I
know
do.
It provides life and comfort.
All
for
you
us.
care about is that the paycheck comes in. The paycheck comes in.
I do care
about that. And when we go to the counter at any place, you scan the card and the card works.
It's true.
And there's money there. That is
my goodness. You sound, goodness. That's so funny.
Of your caring of my occupation.
I don't, it's not my world.
The money comes in.
No. I think we've told this before on the podcast, but one of my favorite things about the difference between you and I is when we hang out with my college friends and we're telling stories about like road trips and parties and fun and wild stories, and you're like, I cannot relate to this because I was studying. Like, I don't know what this means.
Yeah, I went to class.
Just to iterate for the people
projects.
That you're an engineer, and that is not my background.
Correct.
I studied Jesus really well. So, and Jesus tells us to live the abundant life. And I live the
and there's an overabundance that you live. And some of us have to actually like pay for it. So
no, it is. Yeah. So I don't fully understand what you do. It's hilarious when I listen to your meetings. I know you're but I think you would say, I have told you multiple times, I think you are very good at your job in terms of the leading people aspect of it.
Well, that's an interesting aspect too, is that I work from home.
Correct.
And I don't have an office yet. So I work out of our bedroom.
Which is wild.
Actually 2 points. So in the summer. So during the normal, like 9 months out of the year, everyone's gone for the day. Like I'm downstairs in our main space, which has windows, and I'm in the kitchen, I have a counter, things like that. So it's like, it's wide on my laptop. But then when the kids are at home or in the summertime, I'm then like, I have to be in our bedroom, which I have a desk. I won't take a picture of it. I have a desk next to our.
Take a picture of it. That's something you don't want the.
I have a desk next to our bed, where I work from.
Correct.
There is a window, which is very nice. During COVID, I didn't have a window. I was in the basement, and I'm on calls. And you've seen that, like I'm on calls like almost all day long, And I don't use like headphones. You hear my conversation, so. You'll listen on the side.
Like if I'm folding laundry, I've told you before.
And you'll like give me commentary afterwards, like, oh, so-and-so said that. What does that mean? What does that mean?
I wouldn't mind. And of course, like if you're ever in any intense calls, I'm nowhere near you. These are for like some like day-to-day calls and things like that. I have said to you, I wouldn't mind if you actually left our house and went to an office during the summer, because I do feel bad for you. That's
like 15 minutes
away,
but
though. We're not a quiet house. You told me the other day, I think that your boss heard me yelling, which is super embarrassing because I'm not quiet. So like when my kids trigger me, when I lose it, guys. Like it's not a normal losing it. We've said this before. Like I'm not a gentle parent. And so, but I do hear parts of the conversations that you have with your employees,
which are different
and
than your world.
employers, and
The
totally
conversations are different than your world.
Well, I've told you before, I think my big insight in the last couple of weeks is I would never want to be in people management. This last 2 years, had a small team of people that in theory I was the head of, and I hated every moment of it. And you're so good at it. You're like firm but friendly. You're kind and you're fair, but you're not a pushover. Like, I'm not even saying this because I do love you and you're my husband and I mean to you 90% of the time, but like, you are very good at what you do in terms of the people management part of it. I don't understand anything technical that you do. It doesn't matter, but like
Power BI.
Yeah, Power BI. But I do think you're exceptionally good at, like, I would want you as a leader if I was you. I think you're affirming. I think you're all the things.
Okay.
So
I'm a work in progress.
Yeah.
So we've been married for 15 years.
That's facts.
I have been working for 18 years.
Correct.
So I would say the vast majority of my working career, you've been around for that. The first 3 years, no, we've started dating in 2009. So we've been involved for 16 years. And I've been working for 18 years. So the first 2 years, you were not around.
Correct.
You'd
be on the bench.
What was that?
I just remember you'd be on the bench. Remember you worked for Accenture and sometimes you'd be on the bench.
That
And
was
you
only
acted
one
like that
time.
was like common language. You'd be like, oh, I'm on the bench. What? So anyway,
Yeah. So we're just going to pause for a second. Okay, we're back.
that was a quick pause. Sorry, I needed to refill my coffee on our balcony on the cruise.
One thing people should know that this is an unedited show.
Right.
We just record.
Yes.
We don't
let
really
it stream.
prepare
Right.
ahead of time. We just
Correct.
kind of go.
So anyway, we were saying before I asked you to stop the podcast so that I could refill my coffee in the presidential suite on the Carnival celebration. You were saying that I have been with you over the course of your career, except for 2 years.
Yes.
Right.
So I guess taking it back to the early years of the career, I'm trying to think out loud. Like, I don't think there was much there until like we got married and you were pregnant in terms of career. Do you remember anything?
No, I think the biggest thing is when we were starting to get engaged and knew we were going to spend our lives together, you were working for Accenture, which was a company that would send you places. And I just remember I have a memory of you putting your resume up on Monster. Was it Monster? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Yeah, because you were like, you understood that if we were going to be married, that living, or serious, maybe we weren't even engaged yet. Maybe we had just gotten engaged, like serious about being together, that traveling 4 days out of the week wasn't going to work for our lives. And that was kind of the first time in your career, I think, that you shifted something that made sense for the life that we were creating. I would say that. I mean, it was. And I remember you got the Beaumont job working in data, and we were so excited. It was a little bit of a pay bump, and it meant that you would no longer travel.
Yeah, because when we started dating like in June. So for the first couple months I was around, but then this was back in 2009. So like this was when we were through the financial crisis, and then they were starting to like lay people off. So I was on the bench temporarily, but then I had to travel because I worked in consulting. So I was lucky because the first 2 years had a stable place locally, and then I had started traveling. So I was going to Boston. So I would fly out Monday, and then I would come back like first thing Monday morning, like 6 a.m. flight. And I would come back Thursday, like every week for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then halfway through that,
that's
we
when I
got
told you
engaged.
I loved you. Remember, I dropped you off for one of your flights, and you got into the airplane, or you were like walking away. I was in the car, and I was like, "Bye, I love you." And it was like the first time I said I love you. So then I said immediately after,
like a brother,
like a brother.
like a brother. Awkward pause.
It was very weird, but that was in the drop-offs and the pickups for the Beaumont.
Yeah, so that was a grind. I mean, I think we quickly realized that that's not what we wanted because there was no end in sight. In consulting, you just like that's the project you're on until you either find another project because like it was based in Boston.
I love the hotel points. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, because
and the per diem, you would save your per diem.
Yeah, I would get per diem, which I would just keep because they just reimburse that.
Fancy to me.
And I would get the hotel points.
Well, and at that point, like I work for the church, and most of my friends work for the church in some capacity, and then I have this fancy boyfriend that flies to Boston every week for his job. And so
Yeah.
it was cute. But anyway, so then you got the job for Beaumont.
Yeah, so then I switched over, so I got a job. And that was very exciting because that was my first job out of college. So the question is always like, can I get another job? How do I find another job? So I think I had applied for a couple months. That's when you just don't know like if you're able to find another job. And yeah, luckily, this was back in 2010, right before we got married,
Right.
our wedding day. A couple months before I got another job, so I was local,
Right.
and I was like permanent.
Yeah.
So that was like a very exciting time
was awesome.
for us.
Yeah. So you were at Beaumont for how many years were you at Beaumont?
That was 3.5 years, March 2010 to the end of 2013.
And I do feel at Beaumont is where you kind of expanded into the professional life. Like, and recently, I think it's fair to say I've been thinking a lot about your career and the path it's taken and how our family squares away in that. Because I think it is fair to say that you really are somebody that completely considers your family in every single one of your moves. Side hustles not included. It's like, and so when you were at Beaumont, I would say, was that when you had that really great boss that kind of mentored you a little bit? Was that Beaumont?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I talked with someone recently about that because we have a mutual friend. Yeah, because Beaumont was many things. Like I think that because I had no clue when I first started the workplace. I had no clue what anything was. Like I've been lucky. I've been working in data my entire career, so 18 years, which not many people do.
Right.
But I didn't really know what data was until I got to Beaumont. I met someone who was actually like, "Hey, this is like what we're trying to do." And you're like, "Oh."
Also
that was
happened to be a
just-
Catholic.
Correct.
Catholic organist.
So I was just like, I'm working. I do this technology thing, and I go home. So I really didn't connect it to like a career and like what I'm trying to do.
Right.
So that was a huge one. But also, I think in Beaumont was when you got pregnant. We had our first kid, and that's where I think there was a big shift in terms of priorities of you becoming a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
That was like 2011.
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's
that was
what
like halfway
yeah.
through the time when we first had our first son, and you're like, "Hey, I don't want to work. Like, I don't want to be," because at that time we were both full-time. You were full-time youth minister.
Yeah.
I was full-time working.
And we thought we would just be like that. I loved my job.
We never
as a
talked
youth
about
minister.
it.
Yeah, I mean, there was no like, I'm at some point not going to work. Like, I think the plan was that I was going to be working, and that's what you thought too.
Yeah. So then I think we hadn't had that discussion. So I think in many cases, many couples, there's certain discussions you don't have before you got married. So
Right.
like the money talk, we didn't really have that before we got married. So we didn't talk about like me becoming the sole breadwinner. So that happened like I think after we got married and you got pregnant, it was like, hey, I don't plan to work
Right.
full time
And
when we have kids. And it was like, what the heck are you talking
and
about?
make that work, please. Amen.
Because that was a huge
Well,
that was
but-
a huge salary hit too. Because
I
remember,
know.
we were
Yeah.
just crossing like six figures together.
Right.
And then I wasn't making that much more than you, so that was
No,
going
but
to be a
here's-
huge
Yeah, and
salary
what happened
hit.
was my job, I was working as a youth minister at a time. So I was doing overnights and like pregnant and not sleeping, taking teenagers to youth conferences and like throwing up in the bathroom every other second because I was pregnant. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then I had to go to Spain when little Aaron was 3 months old. Like, I was like, this is not the life I want. So anyways, so then I think at that point, you knew we were talking about your mentor, like now this at Beaumont, this is going to be a career now. And then you got to match that with like how you dress and how you act and how you approach work. I remember you telling me that he had that conversation with you.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
I think it was
Like
That's
you
when
understood
it-
now you're not just making a little bit of money and comfortable because
Right.
you can buy. I remember you saying like when you first get a job, it's like now I can buy Hungry Howie's pizza whenever I want, right? And like when you have a kid, it's like, oh wait, I need to like plan my life, right?
yeah, and that's when it became like that. I think that was one of our big like first discussions was the trajectory of like career and like I was going to like all the responsibility would be on me in
Yeah.
terms of making the income.
Right. Financially.
While you were going to, and I think it wasn't quick, right? Because it took us,
Yeah.
it took us
We had a lot
like
of debt.
2 years,
Right. So you weren't like
to
great.
become a
Stop.
stay-at-home mom. So I think
Right.
that was a slow. Because first we were figured it out, and then we had our second son, and then you became part-time, and then next year we had our third son, and then you were like you came home full-time. At
No,
that point.
but I think you should take some credit for that because what happened was when I said I want to be a stay-at-home mom, you're like, okay, I remember you coming home and being like, we can make this happen. It's going to take some time. Here's what the next couple years are going to look like. And I remember, and I could cry when I think about it. I've written about it. I've talked to other people about it. You saying, if we follow this plan, our kids will never know you not at home with them.
right.
Because by the time the oldest is 2.5 years old, you'll be home. And so, and that is what happened. And you put that plan together. And I was home for 10 years. And I tell people all the time, it was very hard jumping back into full-time work over the last 3 years. Not for a second would I regret those 10 years that I had with the kids in our little 1,000 square foot house in Redford, like worth every penny that I didn't make.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important because, we do talks about money on the side. We reference that there's many families who have not been able to have that situation where like one spouse can stay at home and one spouse can work. And I think we had a situation where we did that earlier on before like we started doing like we had a reasonable house payment. We didn't have I think our cars were paid off. So I think we kind of figured out the priorities at an early age because we said, hey, like having you at home was a priority.
Right.
And I wasn't making a bunch of money yet. So I think it was like, okay, we have to control expenses. Like I had to be more serious about my career to make this work. Like it was like a lot of things and we did it earlier. Like luckily we did that in the first couple of years, not like 10, 15 years into it where we already had like established norms or patterns or things like that that would hinder us. So that was the Beaumont years.
And then
the second job
escalated to, was it Cooper Standard was next? Not Cooper Standard.
No, the next one was a company called Blazant. That was that was 9 months.
That is when you were for the first and only time laid off.
Well, that was like a jump. That was so.
Are we comfortable, by the way, naming names in this podcast?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Don't take that. I'm not saying anything negative about any company.
Okay, so Blazant.
So that
we
was.
do have to start to make long story shorts with each of these, otherwise this podcast is going to be.
We don't have that many
hours.
jumps though.
Okay, great.
So that was one where that was like a pay jump. Like I took that job just because it was a pretty large jump in salary.
You did not take it because you loved the company, believed it. It was
Correct.
like a salary jump. Yep.
Yeah, I was having some issues at the previous employer, so I was like, hey, this is a pretty good salary, so let's do it. So it sounded great. And I did that one. But yeah, that was a 9-month stint. I ended up getting laid off.
I love that you said that we're not saying anything bad about the companies. I won't say anything bad about the company. What I will say, is it still around?
I think so.
I mean, what I will say is that you got laid off because you were at the bottom of the totem pole, but they made a decision to lay you off, which is, I guess, just what companies do the last day of the month so that it made sense for them regarding benefits. And I was pregnant with our third. No, I wasn't pregnant yet.
You already just had him already.
Yeah, I just had our second. I just had John Paul. So
it was 9 months.
And yeah, you always talk about it, and you can feel free to share. But like 2 days later, our kid gets stitches. You go to the hospital. They're like, "What's your insurance?" And you're like, "I don't have insurance." And we had planned.
And I would link it to present time because now I made reference to recent. Like in our industry, we have a lot of people who are being laid off. Like we know people personally. Right. I run a professional networking group monthly, and I meet people all the time that are laid off. And that's one of the things that stings to you because that was 11 years ago, but I can still remember.
Can I full disclosure this or no?
What?
We didn't talk about this. Like, I'm at home. We have a babysitter coming, and I open the door, and you are as emotional as I've ever seen you in our marriage, just standing at our door, being like, because they let you go. It was like, show up to work, pack your stuff, and
go home.
You're home at 11 o'clock, and we have a babysitter coming to our house. It was awful. It was awful. It was really hard for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because at the time, the biggest going back to being the sole breadwinner. Yeah. The biggest fear that you have of being the only income is losing your job, and then that happens. The biggest thing you worry about is it happens to you. So you're like, what the heck are we going to do now?
But I mean,
and the severance was only 3 weeks to a month, so it was only we only had a month of runway before. Yeah.
But I think what was awesome is you took a beat, a day, to be like, what the heck? You were just totally overwhelmed emotionally. And then I remember you woke up and you're like, it's really important that every day I wake up at the same time. I'm going to go to the library. My job is now finding a job. You signed up for unemployment immediately because we had kids. And then we had planned a vacation, which is still the worst vacation of all time, to an all-inclusive. You were turning 30. It was our 5-year anniversary. We were going to an all-inclusive in Mexico. And you stayed in bed the entire time depressed. It was very sad. But I remember you taking calls there, and within 3 weeks, you had 2 job offers.
Well, imagine turning 30, and you plan this all-inclusive trip, and you're unemployed. So all you do is think about is I don't have a job. I'm going to go home to 3 kids and no job.
But it was there that you got one of the first offers. I mean, it took you 3 weeks.
I had it before.
Okay.
Was
that Homedics? Yeah, I think that was Homedics. Was it Homedics? Yeah, it was. Yeah.
No, that didn't happen until after we got back. But I interviewed at a hospital. Yeah. The day that we were leaving for that trip. Right. So, so eventually it worked out. But I always tell people, if you're laid off, everyone remembers that. Even if it's been decades ago, you still remember like what it feels like to be laid off and like have that type of insecurity and unsurety.
Yeah.
So
I think it's motivated you tremendously over the course of the last 11 years of like, never will I be in that situation again.
Yeah, I always relate to people who
Yeah.
are going through that. And I was like, hey, I remember that, and I'll help.
Three
as much
small
as I can.
kids, like I can't imagine the stress that felt. And we weren't people that had like a, you know, a $10,000, $20,000 bank account to handle a rainy day. Like it was, holy moly, we don't have income. Like we're going on unemployment. Like that's what we're doing. And so, but anyway, so then you got a job.
So luckily that lasted a couple weeks. Then I got another job, another company. That was pretty temporary. Like I think I could tell pretty quickly that it was an okay fit. But I was like, yeah, there's only so much here. That was when you had you had made the infamous comment of, this is how much we're gonna make. I was making good money.
Okay, so
but you're like, hey, I need to talk to you. It was like
I
very
will tell
serious.
you, we had just crossed six figures. We lived in a 1,000 square foot house in Redford. We were confident that Catholic schools were going to be our path forward. We were not going to do anything but Catholic schools. So I had said to you one day, not like you tell it, not like you tell it. It was like
at nighttime. It was the kids
were in bed. I had named your salary.
You were sitting on the couch.
And I had said to you, is this it? Like, is this our salary for the next? Is this no? But by the way, you tell it a little wrong because at that point, that seemed like a lot of money to me. Like you were making more than my dad ever had in his career. And I know his career is different than you. And I like looked at you and I was like, so is this now this number? Is this what we're building the next 50 years on? That actually is what I meant by that comment. It wasn't like...
I remember it as you like being sad. Like, I need to know if this is what I think.
Well, I mean, it would have been different if we had to stay on that salary forever. I mean, we would have made it work, but it would have been different. So, sorry, then we need to speed this up. We gotta speed this up.
We're fine. We got that. We normally do 45 minutes.
I know.
Yeah. So that was 2 months, and I ended up getting my first manager job at another company.
Yes.
So that was another huge shift because I was there for a good almost 2 years, but I think that was our first encounter with just like much more of a high stakes, stressful job.
Yeah. And it was not the right fit also. Because I feel like you're in a high stakes job right now, in a high stakes level of leadership. You were like...
But we had little kids though.
We had little kids,
At that time we had 4. So
I look at pictures of you during that time, and I'm sure of me during that time. You have huge dark circles under your eyes. Like there's a picture of you on one of your birthdays. Maybe it was 31, or maybe it was 32. Like you look so tired. And I remember you were so stressed out. Like that's been, and I've told you this before, this time in this particular role was the only time I was like, not nervous about our marriage. Like I know our commitment to each other, but you were so stressed out that I was nervous for you. And I remember I always tell the story, we had gone to Disney and you worked the whole time. And I was like, this actually is not the life I want.
Yeah. Because
you had worked all the time. You never not worked. It was
because we had some projects and I was new to leadership. This is like over 10 years ago. So I had built a team, but it was not the ideal way to build a team. But I didn't know it yet. So I had I had a pretty good amount of people overseas. I had some people on my team who were new to the area, so they weren't that skilled. So I had just organized, not that great. And also I was a new leader, so I took on like a lot of the burden of having to do everything. So a lot of that was just me trying to figure out things. It just wasn't good. And like we had 4 kids. So at that point, we have 4 very little children, and the work hours were crazy.
And it could be you. I also don't think you had the best leadership situation there in terms of people that were willing to kind of like work with you. So anyway, I love to fast forward that you made a decision to leave that job with a significant pay loss at that point.
Yeah, I have a newsletter. I do a newsletter on the side. So I actually wrote about that, that time, and just taking a step back because that was a good $20,000 to $30,000 pay cut. Plus, I had 401k that was about to vest, and that was about $20,000. So I talked about that. That was a good $50,000
pay cut.
Financial loss.
And remember, again, you are the only provider for our family. We have 4 children. But I love to tell that story when we talk to new couples in some of the contexts that we do with our Speaking Together, because it wasn't what we wanted for our lives. And I think sometimes it's very easy, particularly for providers, whether they're men or women, to be like, I just got to keep hustling. Like, I got to keep escalating.
Well, like we said before, we have built, and we continue to, we build our lives such that I was never forced into a salary because we lived in a smaller house. We didn't have a lot of bills. Like, we didn't have car payments. So we took the pay cut because we knew that we could take it. It's like, hey,
Right.
that may be a little small hit on lifestyle, but it wasn't like we had
Right.
this huge house payment where like, well, I have to work this job because then we have to move and we have to sell the house. Like we were in a position financially where we could take the pay cut and we just dealt with it.
Well, and in a wider context, and it was during those those years, I had gone to a conference, and one of my favorite priests or bishops, it was Archbishop Burns, who since passed away. He had given a talk, and it was a talk meant to like consider family life. And he said one of the biggest mistakes that providers, in this case he was talking about men, make is that they spend so much time trying to provide that they actually forget to provide for their families.
Yeah.
So like you make a great salary, but your kids don't know you and everybody's miserable and like you don't have a healthy marriage. What have you done then? You've done nothing.
What you don't realize, you realize it now because how fast it goes. Like our oldest is 14, our youngest is 8. Like you don't realize how fast that time.
Right.
People say it, but you don't know it to the other side of it. Just like how available you try to be. So yeah, so I think that was one of the big, that was a big turning point for us in terms of figuring out just priorities and saying, hey, this is important, this is not. Hey, I can continue to drive and grow my career, but that means that I'm not going to be around or not going to be available. So that was a pretty large shift. So
Huge.
Went to a different company for 6 months. That wasn't a great fit just because the commute, because we were pregnant with our next child. So, and that was downtown Detroit. So remember,
so every day you would be in the car because you would leave at 4:30 for an hour and a half to get home. And it was a 20-minute ride. That's an exaggeration, but 45 minutes to an hour. I would text you and be like, "Are you almost home? Are you almost home?"
Yeah, that was downtown Detroit, which is what. And this is before COVID, so everyone was downtown 5 days a week.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
And then I ended up, because they had like garages that you can go to, but that would take extra. So I would like park on the street or find like a parking lot to park at. Yeah. So that was a very long commute. So, and also I wasn't in leadership. I think I liked leadership, and I was in an individual contributor role. I wanted to get back in leadership, so it's kind of like I wanted to get back in. It was a step back.
It was a pause. It was a good pause.
Yeah, it was for 6 months. Yeah. And then I found another job, which was very exciting. That was the longest I've been at. That was a good 5.5 years.
That's crazy. You were there so long.
Yeah, that was the longest I've ever been.
But you know what? COVID was involved in it too. That's why I feel like you weren't there that long. Whenever you say how long you were there, I'm like, I feel like that wasn't like. I feel like you've been at Carhartt so much longer, but it was that COVID is just a mind screwer. So.
Yeah. So that's actually where like I got back into a management role eventually. Yeah. Like had a lot of great experiences there. I think that's when 2020 and going into COVID, that was when I first started getting into LinkedIn. So like the first year of like sort of doing LinkedIn was like my last year there. So that was a job that I eventually left just because I felt that leadership wise, I wanted to go on the higher levels of leadership, but I felt that it was kind of differing signals, differing messaging, and it wasn't very clear.
We talked about this because just recently somewhere online in my like mom world, this woman was talking about her husband, and she's like, listen, like he does really good. They really value him, but he can't take on more leadership there. And they keep promising more leadership and then they take it away. And the comments were super interesting. You said you totally agree. All the comments were like, listen, like company loyalty is not a thing anymore. And people will, if what she was saying was true, that your husband's doing really well, if somebody's really doing well in their role, they might not bump you out of that role because that leaves that role empty. So you're going to have to switch companies.
Yeah. So that wasn't me. It does happen. That wasn't my situation.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought it was that you didn't have enough leadership there and you had asked and they didn't give it to you.
It was just, there were some changes. So, and I think it was a lot of things going on, but I remember part of that was I was waiting around for a good year and a half. I was told, "Hey,
that's what I'm saying."
But it wasn't. But you're saying it's because of like they wanted to keep you in a role.
Oh no, I'm not saying no. That was not.
That's
no,
what you're saying.
What I was saying. My point was that you had made it clear that you wanted higher levels of leadership. They were not giving you higher levels of leadership for whatever reason. Even structurally, they kept switching management. I think a lot. And so after a certain point, you're like, all right, I'm gonna look elsewhere, right?
Yeah, I have been having conversations, very direct conversation for a good year and a half, and told, hey, it's not a question of if, but when. And then it was kind of, but then I got finality. I think eventually I got finality of, hey, this is not going to happen, and we need you to do X, Y, and Z. And then I don't
remember that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, and then that's when it was okay, I didn't like the answer, so I kind of hover around for a couple months, and then that's when someone reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I took the role that I'm currently in over at Carhartt.
And we love Carhartt, to be really honest. First of all, the old company you worked for, we haven't said the name, and I don't need to say the name, but it was, I tell you all the time, it was like, data for like a national daycare chain. So that's about as unfancy as you can get. And then being able to work for Carhartt, which is actually like a really cool company. It's a great company. I love how they treat people. I love their investment in the community. I love that you have been able to find real fulfillment there. It seems like a fairly healthy work environment. Like
it's easier to explain what I do.
Yeah, like you're just, I just, and, and we should say, oh my gosh, you went to Mia's or Juju's career date 2 years ago, and you used a Bluey factory to use Bluey to explain your role in Carhartt, right?
Yeah.
Like Bluey wanted a Carhartt hat. But like, I just think this has been a really good fit for you. And I also appreciate it's so funny. And I hope it's okay to say this too. I think it is. But like, you know, with your LinkedIn stuff, with your data stuff, with your data community stuff, it does take up time. And I'm always like, what is the purpose of the time? And I think you love building community within the data world. Like you are community oriented. We met because you were volunteering for youth.
Well, I think that's the newest phase of my career. Like I said, 2022 is when I started. 2023 is when I say, hey, I'm just going to post on LinkedIn every day for a year and see what happens. Yeah. 2024 is when we started Dating the D. And then this year is when we decided, hey, we're gonna do the conference. So yeah, it's been an interesting kind of shift in terms of professional networking, community, all around the job. Like this is not like I'm in like a carpentry group and I'm trying to start carpentry. Like this is all related to my job in terms of the community.
But I will say, I mean, there is tension, right? Like because we talked about your career in light of marriage, and I'm always like, what is the point of all of this LinkedIn stuff? Like, what are you trying to do with this? And like even the conference that you're building, I'm like, well, where does this fit in with like our family culture and what we're trying to do as family? But I think you get a lot of life from it. I think it enables you to help a lot of people. I think it. Well,
also I don't have hobbies.
Right. Like, this is well, but that's what I said to you. I'm like, if this is your hobby, then let's name it as your hobby. But I actually think it's you weirdly to me. I tell people this. I grew up with a father that was in accounting and in leadership. And hated it. He hated his job. He did it because it provided. You like actually love data strategy. you love it, I feel like. And you like to be with people that love it too and understand it, right?
Well, and I think, I don't know, like I think a lot of, like my career has not been a direct path. It's been a series of, I don't know, I'm going to try this out. Like even when you go from company to company, like a lot of people find comfort in, hey, I've been working in this company for 30 years. That has never been me. Like I've been at 8 or 9 different companies. I've kind of bounced around a little bit. So I live in uncertainty. And stuff I'm doing now, like when LinkedIn, it was like, hey, I want to speak at a conference. I want to be on the podcast. That was like 3 years ago and I did that. And then it was like, hey, let's build this group. So to me, you always ask me, what's the point? I was like, I don't know. Like to me, it's you build stuff. And I found value, but if you connect people, if you reach out to people, you work with people, you help people, like good things will come. And I said, hey, we're planting seeds and I have no clue what's going to happen. But if you build stuff, you connect people, you help people, like positive things happen. Well, our kids
are older now, so you have the time to do that a little bit. I've gone back to full-time work. I think we've structured a good balance. I still always worry about the amount of stuff you're doing because at a certain point you always have to square it away against the values of what we're trying to accomplish with our family. But as of today, you strike, I think, a really good balance with it. And we've gotten better. So like, if you had brought your computer on a vacation 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago, and you're posting on LinkedIn every day, I would have been mad. I would have been like, this is vacation, close your computer. But like, you're like, hey, I'm bringing my computer. Each day I'm probably going to work a little bit on my computer and not in an overwhelming sense and not in a sense that's disconnected you, but you love doing it and you want to continue it. So we communicate that and that makes sense to me. And so I think it's not without tension though, let's be honest. Like we have
even like the conference I'm doing now, you thought it was gonna be a failure, like this thing's dumb.
Okay, I didn't think it was gonna be a failure. I didn't understand why you were doing a conference. We ran a conference 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I don't know.
7 years ago.
No, it was not.
2018.
COVID is so weird.
7.
We ran a conference 7 years ago. It's a massive amount of work. And so you're like, I'm going to do a conference. Then you're like, I'm going to do a conference for data people. We did a church conference. Like there were no financial hooks. Then you're like, I'm going to do a conference. We're going to hire somebody to help us with this conference. I'm like, I'm not paying for So you're like, we're going to bring in sponsorships. I'm like, okay, that's cute. Like people are just going to give you money to run your conference.
And that's exactly what happened.
And turns out my man is doing it.
But yeah, and I think that's the growth. To me, that's the career growth. I think when you build things that help people, like that's where you get career growth. Because I think at a certain point, career growth gets limited to the company you're at. Right. But I think once you expand out that, you start like building things. Like you build communities, you build conferences that are educational
But
nature.
wouldn't you
Like
say all
that's
of
a
that
whole
then
different
just
set of
makes
skill
you a
sets.
stronger leader at Carhartt too? Like that's what's really beautiful about it. You're not like taking an effort away from.
Correct. If I was
Yeah.
trying to create like some side,
Right.
side consulting business,
No, it just makes you stronger.
but to me, I've always said that like it benefits the company I'm at that I'm doing this because I learn,
right,
and they get the benefits of that
Yeah.
from me learning and like learning how to lead and learning how to do
Yeah,
stuff. Like
it's totally true.
to me, it's all connected. Like everything.
But that's not always the case. I mean, you have to be able to prove that yourself with a high amount of integrity and effort
Yeah.
to do that. But you're, yeah.
But I always try to bring. Like, I'm starting to like. I talk like in my network. I talk to people from LinkedIn. And I say, hey, like I want to talk to you about some stuff we're doing at Carhartt. Can I get your opinion on this?
Right.
And I bring that. So I am like full circle, like bringing things into the company and say, hey, these are some ideas I'm hearing about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this stuff here and there. But yeah, I think that's another evolution. I would say you've been supportive. I think you default to like, what is this? I don't know why you want to do this. Sure, okay. But eventually you're like, hey, yeah, I support it. You're doing a great job. But I would say
no offense, with all love, that's a little condescending because yes, I do support it, of course, but at the same time, I challenge it because what we're trying to create is a domestic church. Anything else that exists around it literally is important. Like it's important what you do. That's not what the foundation of our marriage is. So I have to say to you, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? How does this make sense?
Right, but I'm saying your first default isn't like, sure, that sounds good.
No, my first default is if you're taking 2 hours in the evening trying to like plan a conference with people, like I need to know why those 2 hours aren't being spent with our family. And that might sound crazy to people, but like I actually think I think you are stronger professionally because I ask those questions. And our family is certainly stronger as a domestic church because I ask those questions. Like what we're trying to do. And I don't want to be cocky about it because marriage is so fragile. But I think we approach our marriage with a lot of intentionality.
One of those words. Pick a word.
And I think it's important. And I think that's allowed us to toil through a lot of tensions. I think it's allowed us to help shape your career. And I say us, like I feel like we've been in it together.
Well, and also I was recognized that we sit here on a cruise ship in like a suite staring out the ocean. And I always say, hey, like this is the fruit. So like sometimes
there's a fireplace on my there's a fireplace on my balcony and an outdoor shower and a jacuzzi tub.
So to me it's like these are the fruits of the labor. So when we ask about like why do you do all this stuff, it's like, hey, like we're looking at that in terms of just the movements of the movements of the past 18 years of my career, 16 of us together, has led us to this and led us to more fruits of that. Well,
it's a blessing too. I mean, it's effort met with grace, I think we try to like really be intentional. I mean, it's a whole other thing, but we talked about it a little bit, really be intentional about the stewards that we are of the resources God has given us through your career and through my illustrious booming career. And
I would say that there also are guardrails, right? Because like even I know my limits are because I get asked to do things and and I always say no. Like I say no to a lot of things in terms of, hey, do you want to be part of this? Like, nope, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. So even I have guardrails around like, hey, like the focus is always like family, and then it's career to provide for the family. So even I have like people ask me like, hey, do you want to be on the board of this? Like, hey, I actually don't have time. Like, because like I said, between the family and the job, like the full-time job and like the LinkedIn community stuff, like I'm fully like maxed out. So like everything revolves around those things and all the extra stuff that's like, well, I don't have to do that. And it's like, well, I'm going to put my effort into the stuff I'm trying to build out. So I think that's the other part is trying to figure out priorities. And we've always talked about what's the priorities and the value and putting everything there, and everything else is kind of an easy no. I mean, people think we do a lot, but I don't think they realize that we say no to a lot of things.
Well, you and I, that's huge.
We say no to more things than we say yes to.
We love not doing things. It's awesome. Okay, that was a great cruise thought chat. I think. I think it's going to be a great crossover. What's up, LinkedIn followers? You know, is this going to get the Aaron Wilkerson LinkedIn bump? We'll see. So let me tell you, there is a very real Catholic mom bump when I post these on my socials. So
because you're so popular.
Let's see. No, it's a localized Catholic mom bump. Let's see what the data bump is.
I don't know the podcast. I mean, I know a lot of people have podcasts, but I don't know the listenership of like how many people are like, I want to listen to a 45-minute podcast. But yeah, we'll see. So sweet. So appreciate, wife, you taking the time to talk about this with me today.
I appreciate you, Boo, for working so hard to provide for our family in an intentional way.
Yeah, so we'll keep on doing this.
Keep on, keep it on.
All right, until next time.
Till next time.